Hindutva is a justified political response to assert Hinduism at a time when there was no other option. I mean, Hinduism on its own is not going to expand and attack and aggressively go to some other country and wage war. We never did that. So the reason that people got sick of being victims, being hit all the time, being all our lands being taken, temples being taken, just being blamed, accused, a lot of Hindu phobia in all the textbooks and everywhere. The Hindus needed to push back. So therefore, a large number of Hindus who personally they were not BJP supporters or Jan Sangh supporters. So many people I know, they said, this is the way. This is the way. They are the people who champion and give us some rights. So I think that the way you justify Hindutva is that it is the path to equality for Hindus. We are not asking for superiority. We are not asking that we should take over other people. We are only saying we want to take back what is ours, what is justifiably ours. We don't want unfair and unequal allocation of resources in the name of reservations. Reservations should be only for people below a certain poverty line. It should have nothing to do with your religion or jati or any of that stuff.
Shri Rajiv Malhotra ji. Shri Rajiv Malhotra ji needs no introduction. He's the founder of Infinity Foundation, a non-profit based in Princeton, USA. Initially trained as a physicist, he is and then as a computer scientist specializing in artificial intelligence in the 1970s. He became an entrepreneur and founded and ran several IT companies in 20 countries. Rajiv ji serves as chairman of the board of governors of the Center for Indic Studies at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, and is a senior advisor to the Indian think tank Defense Research and Studies. He is on the advisory board of the Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, Shimla. He has authored several best-selling books, including Breaking India, The Battle for Sanskrit, and Sanskrit Non-Translatables, The Importance of Sanskritizing English. A key interest of Rajiv ji has been to interpret the Dharma of our times, a need he considers vital given the sweeping changes and challenges we face. Today, he will speak on the geopolitics of Hindutva, how it is being weaponized or how it's being defined worldwide, defamed worldwide, and also how is the pushback happening worldwide. Rajiv ji, over to you.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to see my friend Pawan here. Pawan is the person who launched my book, Being Different, which I think is a book that defines a large part of my work. And then I've elaborated on that book ever since. The largest chapter in that book was Sanskrit Non-Translatables. So I want Pawan to know that actually now we produced a whole book on just Sanskrit non-translatables as a central theme. So we go back a long way. I was very attentively listening to his talk. A lot of wisdom in it. I agree with quite a lot what he said. I also have some differences. So my take on Hindutva starts with the question, why did we need another term for something that is ancient? Is it that the substance of this tradition is new? Are we inventing something new? Or is it a new term for something old? And if it's a new term for something old, why do we need a new term? I want to start by asking that question. The literal meaning Hindu-ness or essence of Hinduism, you don't need to have a new term for that. I mean, you can just, if Savarkar didn't like Hinduism, he could call it Hindu Dharma, which is fine. Sanatan Dharma was the old name. Hindu Dharma is the new name. Why do you need to create one more term and potentially create confusion? This is an issue that we should discuss. So I don't think just simply saying Hindutva means Hindu-ness and then the whole talk one can give on Hinduism we can't simplify it that way. There must be something different about it. So let's figure out what's different about it. So some people have said that, like Shashi Tharoor's view, is that it is not bona fide Hindu-ness. This is not bona fide Hindu Dharma. Hindutva, because Hindutva makes it political and assertive, whereas the traditional Hindu idea was was inward going. That is the theory, that was all inward going, adhyatmic. Now, I understand and appreciate the adhyatmic aspect. I practice it a lot. That is why I call myself a Hindu. It's for that very reason. But my response to that is that if you look at Ramayana, it is an external social political encounter. In fact, this is Vijay Dashmi Day today. So we should know that Avatar himself is engaged in a fight. So it is not all passive and inward looking. It is also a response to social political circumstance of that era. And then you look at the other itihas, you look at Mahabharata, Sri Krishna also has to fight, promote a fight with Duryodhan, because it is not good enough to have soft power and try to convince him and all that stuff, because sometimes you need hard power. So I don't think it is fair to say that traditional Hindu Dharma did not have assertiveness in the face of problems and opposition and enemies and so on. Ramayana is about the external enemy. He comes from a different country, different desh. And Mahabharata is a fight with the internal enemy, because they are our cousins in that situation. So whether it is a threat from external or a threat from internal, that threat has to be dealt with. It is part of Hindu-ness. It is part of Hindu Dharma. It is part of Sanatana Dharma, by whatever name. So therefore, that too would not be justification for coining a new term, because the phenomenon that is the political aspect and the assertive aspect has also been encountered in the past. So then what could be the purpose of this new term? I think that one has to understand the idea of a Purvapaksha in order to understand why we fell apart when external invasions happened. When we were doing Purvapaksha, we were vigilant about who's out there to get us, who these people are, what they want, what is their agenda, what are their strengths and weaknesses, what should we do differently. In other words, we would always keep up, be innovative. But for some reason, Purvapaksha did not happen when there was Islamic invasion. There was no intellectual rebuttal response, deconstruction, analysis, or at least if there was, it was very feeble. It's not part of there was no new itihas. Like there is the itihas of Ravan coming and there is the itihas of Duryodhan, there is no itihas of the Islamic invasion. And similarly, the European, when the Europeans came to colonize, there was no Purvapaksha of who are these people, what are they doing. Somehow the lack of Purvapaksha made us kind of complacent, and we sort of lost track of where the threat is coming from. Now, the result of this was Hindus became inward, otherworldly. Some of them accepted that this new thing that is coming must be the same. And so we came up with good ways to justify, that whatever is going on must be the same. The common statement that the truth is one and the wise people call it by many names should not be misinterpreted to mean that all statements and all claims of all people are valid. That is not true. It doesn't say you shouldn't falsify anything. If that were the case, then you don't have to falsify adharma, because it is somebody's claim. Why do you want to fight adharma? It is somebody's claim. If somebody in geometry is making a statement that is incorrect and you refute it, in mathematics and logic, our tradition is very sharp. The idea of refuting an opponent is very sharp. So you cannot say that is his truth, this is my truth, that moral relativism, that postmodernist deconstruction is not on. So you cannot say that because the truth is one, all the claims are valid, because some claims are bogus also. It's a matter of, so it says wise men. It doesn't say unwise men also. When it says truth is one and wise people call it by many names, it does not say unwise people also. So we cannot justify the lack of Purvapaksha on the basis that everything everybody was saying must have been valid. So why do we need to do Purvapaksha? We need to do Purvapaksha, but we didn't do Purvapaksha. So this otherworldliness Uh, and especially during both during the Islamic invasion and the European invasion, this attack on deities, because the Abrahamic religions don't like idol worship and all that, what we call murtis. So this attack on deities, we became kind of ashamed of the deities. We stopped teaching Artha Shastra. We are, even until very recently, when they teach Hindu Dharma, they teach Upanishads, they teach Itihas, but they don't teach Artha Shastra, Dharma Shastra, and these are not supposed to be codified and critical editions meant permanently forever. They are smritis and not shrutis, and they are supposed to be updated. We should have been teaching Artha Shastra, Dharma Shastra, and creating new Dharma Shastra. We have to create today's Dharma Shastra, how to deal with people of different faiths that are living with us. We need to create Dharma Shastra for that. What about LGBTQ? There has to be Dharma Shastra for that. So we need to do new thinking. This requires smart people. And if we don't have good intellectuals and good leaders, and we can just recite and keep orating the old canons, we are not people of the book in that sense. We do not have frozen books that can't be updated. We are supposed to update these. Shruti is permanent, but Smriti keeps getting updated. But we haven't been writing new Smritis, and therefore, this sidelining of Artha Shastra and Dharma Shastra has been a problem, because we did not have enough political consciousness. See, responsible Purvapaksha resulting in good Dharma Shastras and Artha Shastra updating, which would require vibrant debates and discussions amongst us, would lead to a different kind of political mobilization gradually all throughout the history, not sudden knee-jerk reaction. This situation led to a lot of fragmentation because of colonization. It led to what some people have called pseudo-secularism, which means that secularism not uniformly applied. So this business of Hindu temples are controlled, but Muslim sites are not run by the government, or the Sikh, holy sites or spiritual sites. This kind of an asymmetric, unequal, which kind of is a time bomb, because it upsets the Hindus. It upsets the Hindus, and therefore it creates opportunity for political people who may not be very responsible to take advantage of it and create a Hindu vote bank, because frustrating the Hindus on grounds which are totally unfair and unnatural is a recipe for disaster, because you cannot take the majority for a right indefinitely. You can make a fool out of some people some of the time, and all the people for some of the time, but you cannot make a fool out of all the people all the time, as Winston Churchill famously said. So trying to make a fool out of the Hindu majority with all these asymmetric policies, which are, anti-majority, in the name of minorityism, to get votes out of them, was a very dangerous cocktail which backfired. So and then there is this whole problem of translating the Dharma, translating the Sanskrit into foreign categories, and then mapping it onto those, mapping the whole framework onto those categories, digesting the genius of our tradition into foreign history, so denying us our authentic history. These have created some vacuums. So I would say that certain vacuums existed, and in the midst of all this heavy bombardment of Hindu phobia from global nexuses and some domestic ones, this muddled up our leaders, and a lot of the leaders who kind of revived Hinduism, there were two kinds. There were those who were sort of mixed up, the Nehruvian type, the very mixed up Fabian socialism, that kind of stuff, quite mixed up with the Western influences and foreign influences. And then there were some who were trying to revive something more traditional. So this led to a situation where there was a political opportunity to create a new kind of assertive dharma. Let me repeat, a new kind of assertive dharma was an opportunity, because, if you have a democracy, or in those days when Savarkar was there, we were not free, but we were an aspiring kind of democracy. If you have political camps coalescing in various faiths, various traditions, and our own faith is so open, such an open architecture, so kind of accommodating, that we are being taken for a ride. The average person starts thinking that, we are being taken for a ride. So the rise of Hindutva politics today, let's come back to that point. The rise of Hindutva politics, the rise of BJP, it's Savarkar created something 100 years ago for his situation, but it wasn't a big deal. It was not rising. It was not a mainstream thing. The rise of Hindutva today as a political assertiveness, as a pushback to all of these things that have been happening, was because these things were allowed to happen. I mean, if they had not, during Nehru's time and during Indira Gandhi's time, if they had not done too much minority manipulation, vote banking at the expense of the majority, thinking you keep making a fool out of them, then there would not have been that opportunity for the rise of this modern Hindutva. So I would say that the climate, the soil was created partly by the British, but then the Indian National Congress afterwards kind of made it even worse. Rather than starting in 1947, getting rid of all the temple controls, getting rid of having quotas based on economic merit rather than minority, rather than caste or jati, but economic merit. If you come from an underprivileged family, doesn't matter what kind of heritage you come from, underprivileged is underprivileged. If they had leveled the playing field in the true spirit of democracy, I think there would not have been the opportunity for some people to come and push back against this injustice, bringing all the Hindus together into a big vote bank in order to give them some rights. The fact is that the rise of the BJP to give rights to Hinduism and create a major vote bank was something, the handwriting was on the wall. It happened because there was far too much injustice that the Hindus felt is happening. So the best way to, if there are people who don't want a kind of overly aggressive Hindutva, the best way is that all the parties, including CPM, including Mayawati, including Congress, they should start respecting Hinduism. They should start respect, and they should not give them privileges or because they're minority, but don't give them oppression either. Don't give them something special, but don't give the others pampering either. If you were to truly have a constitutional amendment which says there shall be no laws passed in the name of reservations, etc., which are discriminatory to any religion, any faith of any kind, that we want to upgrade the plight of those who are the downtrodden, not based on faith or identity or history, or whether you're foreign or domestic or whatever, but entirely based on your family circumstance. If you could level that playing field, that would be a true democracy. Then you would diffuse the vote banking. But guess what? You would not only diffuse the vote banking of the BJP, but also of the Mayavatis and all the different, regional, fractional, caste-based, political groups that have come up. You would diffuse all of that, and it would be for the betterment of India. So that would be the true spirit of Sanatana Dharma. Because my concern is that modern democracy has been a weapon for fragmentation, for forces of fragmentation. And because modern democracy in a parliamentary system, as opposed to, say, a presidential system, but in a parliamentary system, has given an opportunity for a lot of chota mota people to make little groups here and there, and to convince a certain vote bank that the nation at large, the other caste or the other religion, whoever it might be, they are the problem, they are your enemy, and you're poor and not doing well because of those people. And so this is a dangerous cocktail. So I would say that the BJP and the rise of modern Hindutva was going to happen sooner or later. Somebody would have to do it, because either the Hindus who remain dumb and over patient and finish off, which they were not willing to do, or somebody had to come up and say, hey, listen, guess what? This is a game of vote banking. They're doing it to us. We ought to do it too. I mean, we are being taken for a ride because we don't have a vote bank. We are too tolerant, too benign, too passive. So let's get organized. So I think we can accuse and blame what happened in recent politics. And I fully sympathize that there are some issues. It is sometimes overdone. I do not want my Sanatana Dharma to be weaponized against others. I really don't want to. I espouse mutual respect. I really believe in all these principles, and I take the tenets of my Dharma very seriously. There are karmic consequences if we don't do the right thing. There are karmic consequences. I do not want to be part of any such thing. But I feel if you are a political analyst, The powder keg, which people came and lit a match and let it blow up, that powder keg had been created by overdoing this minority pampering business and overdoing it, this caste bashing and whatnot, divide and rule kind of internally within India. And that once it's set in motion, this vote banking thing set in motion based on identities, identity politics, then, then some people had to come up. Some people said, hey, you know what? This is a good strategy. We'll also use it. So I don't think you can accuse the political Hindutva vadis, namely the BJP, for having started something. They just joined the game. They said, why do we want to lose the game? If either there is no game of politicizing faith, keep faith out of politics completely and keep it out of reservations and things like that. Or if there is a game to be played on identity politics, we are going to play it also. So that's a kind of a view that I have. Now, it's more complex than just this. I have issues with Savarkar and some of the early thinkers of the Sangh in terms of their idea of Rashtra. So the idea of Rashtra, as I read it in their books, and by the way, I got the books which some Sangh people, I asked them which are the books to read to understand the notion of Rashtra as per your founding fathers. And so the books they gave me, written by these the early people, I read those, and the idea of Rashtra does not agree with the Vedic idea of Rashtra. Let me repeat. The ideas of Rashtra mentioned in the early writings of the Sangh Parivar, or people who influenced the Sangh Parivar about 100 years ago, are different from the ideas of Rashtra written in the Vedas. And I'm willing to have a separate discussion. It's a very big topic. I'm writing on that, on the different ideas of Rashtra that have come up from the Vedic times to more modern times. So I feel that that when we are saying, when people ask me, what do I think of Hindu Rashtra? I want to, first of all, have a discussion on what I mean by Hindu and what I mean by Rashtra. Because if you talk about Vedic idea of Rashtra as described in the Vedas, I think it's a wonderful idea. But that is not the idea. The word Rashtra, even though it's the first name of Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, that word Rashtra, as has been interpreted, is not the Vedic idea of Rashtra. This is a very big topic, and you can look up what the Vedas say about Rashtra, and there are several dozen occurrences of the term Rashtra, and you will be surprised that the founding fathers did not quote. The founding fathers of this idea, modern day idea of Hindu Rashtra, did not quote from those sources. They quoted from Western sources of all. So, and then also I feel that the real problem is we forgot the Purvapaksha. So we let centuries go by, a centuries long process where we are being pushed back, we are being squeezed, the Hindus are losing up their land, more of them, they're losing authority, they're losing their houses of worship. I mean, we didn't do Purvapaksha, which was supposed to have been done by as per our tradition all along. And then after we retreated, we are bad shape. And then there's vote banking coming on top of that in modern times. So then, then we are desperate. And so when the majority feels desperate and feels that it's the victim of injustice, that's a very dangerous situation. And so there's going to be people who come and take advantage of that. So now, of course, politicizing Hinduism, by whatever name you call it, has good things in it, because they are fixing some of these problems. Absolutely, they are fixing some problems that should not have been there. They are fixing problems, leveling the playing field. They should be doing it. And in the process, there are excesses. Absolutely, there are excesses. So, but you cannot expect a bounce back after centuries of being oppressed is going to be perfect. There will be a lot of good things happening. I'm very glad that so many good things are happening in the name of Hindutva. But at the same time, there are also, like the examples given, some people have been unfairly killed, or some people have been killed, and other things going on, violence and all that I disown. Those are also happening that I disown. So I wouldn't say that Hindutva should not have happened, because given what we went through for so long, it was something of that kind, by whatever name you give, had to happen. Nor am I saying that everything they've done is a good thing, because I think that some bad things have also happened. So we are in the early stages of a new era. We are in the early stages of the revival of Hindu Dharma, where Hindu Dharma has to be, if we are going to be a democracy and if we are going to have vote banks, then, fine, we're going to have our vote bank too. Or if we want to change this whole law so that the vote banking is diffused, there is no need for championing a vote bank in order to get them a better deal, because the better deal will be based on merit, based on the economic and social merit. Nowadays, the technology is there. With Aadhaar card, you could score every person's, with all this artificial intelligence system and so much data, you could score each person using some algorithms on whether he has more need, less need, on a scale, give every person a rating. And then those people who are below a certain level are the ones who should be given preferences. That I fully agree with. But the moment you bring who was your bap and who was your dada and what kind of jati he came from, or what kind of religion you have and what kind of certificate you can get, the moment you start coalescing with groups like that, it is utterly irresponsible. And that is what the political class across the whole spectrum has been doing. So I will stop with that, because it's a big topic, but I was given 18 minutes. I lost track of time, but I'm really glad that I got this chance, and I would love to have any discussion, questions, debate, whatever the organizers would like. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Professor
Rajiv.
Malhotra, I benefited greatly from being different while writing my book, The Great Hindu Civilization. In fact, you're quoted in it on more than one place.
You and I need to have one-on-one discussions on YouTube.
Yeah, with pleasure.
I think we should do that, because I respect with what you are saying. I have a different take on. I think that the BJP was basically saying, we want to be politically successful. This is the success formula. You have to create a vote bank. India is a land of vote banks. That is how the democracy is. Why are we going to just sit and not have a vote bank? Do you agree that Hindu vote bank was the only way out to give the Hindus a kind of a sense that somebody's championing our case? Because nobody was willing to champion our case. We were being asked to be apologetic for being Hindus. I was very concerned. Why am I having to apologize? All over the world I go, I have to. The moment I say I'm Hindu, the moment I say yoga is of Hindu origin, I'm not saying others should not do it. I'm not saying that yoga others should not do it. I'm saying it is of Hindu origin as a historical fact. What's wrong with that? And I would be attacked. So I became a sympathizer of this revival, because I felt there's no other way that we're going to get a fair shake. And the temple control and these quotas based on, identity, I think this has been a disaster. So I would love to hear your views on it.
No, I agree with you. In fact, I've catalogued in my latest book, The Great Hindu Civilization, the reasons for the evolving angst among Hindus for legitimate and verifiable reasons.
Yes.
At the same time, having understood that and being able to explain the rise of Hindu aggression, or at least a self-conscious attempt for greater assertion, I also critique the ultra-Hindu right for its distortions of some of the tenets of Hinduism. So we will have a discussion separately on this. I was very short of time today, but I was in particular, of course, interested to listen to all the panelists and to you. And it's been a great pleasure. Please continue. I would ask the moderator to.
And we would love to host this one-on-one discussion between you and Rajiv ji. That could be one of our future programs. Thank you so much for joining us. And
thank you, Pawan. Thank you. Let's stay in touch.
God bless.
We have a lot of questions. We've just been bombarded with the questions, so we move on to that quickly. The first question is, if someone says that they are in favor of Hinduism but against Hindutva, what should be our response? And I'll put this to Rajiv Malhotra ji.
Well, if somebody says that, I will start by defining Hindutva. I will say that Hindutva is a justified political response to assert Hinduism at a time when there was no other option. I mean, Hinduism on its own is not going to expand and attack and aggressively go to some other country and wage war. We never did that. So the reason that people got sick of being victims, being hit all the time, being all our lands being taken, temples being taken, just being blamed, accused, a lot of Hindu phobia in all the textbooks and everywhere. The Hindus needed to push back. So therefore, a large number of Hindus who personally, they were not BJP supporters or Jan Sangh supporters. So many people I know, they said, this is the way. This is the way. They are the people who champion and give us some rights. So I think that the way you justify Hindutva is that it is the path to equality of our Hindus. We are not asking for superiority. We are not asking that we should take over other people. We are only saying we want to take back what is ours, what is justifiably ours. We don't want unfair and unequal allocation of resources in the name of reservations. Reservations should be only for people below a certain poverty line. It should have nothing to do with your religion or jati or any of that stuff. So Hindutva became a way to get justice for the majority, because in the name of pampering the minority, injustice was being done to the majority. This is a very unique situation. I tell this to Americans that there is no other civilization I know which was colonized by a minority for so long. And therefore, the meaning of being a minority is a different meaning. In India, it is a different meaning. In America, when they say minority, it's blacks. Blacks did not rule over Americans. Blacks were not the foreigner guys who came and ruled over the whites. So when we talk about sympathy for blacks, it's because the whites actually ruled over them and made them into slaves and oppressed them. And so now there is some sympathy for them. That's a very wonderful thing. But in India, the minorities are the people who were ruling over the majority. This is a very different situation than anywhere else in the world. So our people must know how to articulate this.
Absolutely. And there is some amount of gaslighting where the oppressed is classified as the oppressor, like you rightly pointed out.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here and also hit the bell icon to make sure you get notified. To donate, please click this button.